everybody. Welcome to Recover Outloud, episode number 81, brought to you by the Antisocial Network. Today, we got a pretty awesome guest, one of my favorite human beings in the world, one of my best podcasting friends, Cheyenne Moore. How are you doing, Cheyenne?
Ah, you knocked my socks off with that intro. I love you too.
Yeah, Cheyenne, she's one of the most incredible people I've ever met through podcasting, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Um, I've been on her show three times, twice to share my story, another time to share what I believe in with Norse paganism. And every single time that I've had an encounter with her and we've spoke, she's just been the most amazing, supportive human being. So right now, Cheyenne, I will say thank you for who you are as a human being, and thank you for who you are to me.
Okay, don't make me cry, otherwise I'm not going to be able to talk on your show. But I am honored to hear all of these wonderful things, and I feel the exact same way about you. I'm pretty sure, like when we're recording, when I met you, the flow was great. I was enthralled with your story. You had to have a part one and a part two because we had to pull every detail apart. And just the way that we've come to like send messages and be like, dude, check out my crystal, check out my new book.
Yeah.
It's great to connect. Like, these are the good parts of the internet, is what I would like to think about our friendship.
Yeah. This is not the Twitter, okay, or the
Yes,
X,
yes.
okay.
No, whatever it's called. Oh my gosh, what a distraction.
Right, right. So, Cheyenne, would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself?
Yes, I am Cheyenne. And for all of those out there that also have spiritual names, my spiritual name is Moonbeam. Whee! So I have a podcast called Safe Space with Cheyenne. It is literally what the title is. It is a vicarious safe space for all of us to dive into everybody else's stories, no matter what they are, whether it's up in the spiritual, whether it's supremely grounded in whatever life lesson you want. I'm a big storyteller, just like you. I learn through stories, I learn through conversations, and I just have like epiphanies randomly just by talking to people, right? So I wanted to organize a safe space for people to come on and tell their story, but then I also wanted to make like a time capsule of spiritual knowledge for future generations. Like I'm really inspired by like Carl Jung and Alan Watts. Even today, when you listen to the recordings and you're like, what was going through their mind at the time where they thought it was necessary to record this information? And what were their peers thinking of them while they were doing it? And I ultimately decided that they had a connection to the divine, right? That they figured out, and they had foresight, and I have been gifted that many times in my life, whether I've used it good or bad. So, yeah, I mean, I love talking to people. I love recording. I love media. I'm getting back into all the things that I love through my journey, and I meet kick-ass people like you. So my life's pretty awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I first met Cheyenne, she was like, "Oh, you want to come on my show?" I was like, "Oh God!" Like straight up, I was like, "Oh God, I have to talk to a hippie chick," and that's what I thought. But I was like, I met Cheyenne and got to know who she was as a human being, and I'm like, "Holy shit, she's awesome!" And hippie people are not so bad.
Well, it is kind of like a fun aesthetic that people tend to use almost derogatory
Yeah.
sometimes, like, get a job, hippie. And I mean, I'm just connected to the earth. That's what I hear when you call me hippie. I'm
Yeah.
connected to God. I'm connected to nature. I'm connected to something that you just might be scared to connect to.
Yeah.
And I like using things from the earth. But yeah, I take it as an absolute compliment, even if people are going to be mean about it, like hippies, like bad in their language. I shower. I smell really good right now. So, like, I'm not concerned about any of that. I think
Yeah.
it's funny when people are like, you're a hippie. I'm like, thank you so much for seeing me. You're
Right.
right. I love you. You're the
Right.
best.
Yeah. When I used to hear the term hippie, I used to just be like, "Oh no." Like you said, people don't shower, they don't wear deodorant, and then now because I've been exposed to so many people that I hate the word identify, but identify as hippie or they live that lifestyle. Like my dad, we were driving through. a part of West Virginia. My dad was like, "Oh, hippies live here," and I'm like, "Well, what kind of hippies are we thinking
Yeah.
about here,
The
right?
good ones or the bad ones?
Right, the good ones,
Yeah.
like the ones like Cheyenne and like so many of my other friends. Are we talking Charlie Manson? Like, where are we going with this?
Yeah. Yeah, we're
How?
pretty far away from that freak.
Yeah, that freaky.
No.
Well,
Trying to be
he's
as
not with us
non-judgmental as
anymore.
possible, but I'm like,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, Cheyenne, what is the weather like in Wichita right now?
Let's see. My computer says it's 82 and sunny.
Hmm.
So it's actually been scorching hot the last couple weeks. It's been like 100 and whatever, 100, and I'm not going outside. I think that's what it means to me.
Yeah,
So this is actually considered cool to us right now, which is terrifying because it's still hot.
yeah. I'm trying to get used to this Maryland, West Virginia heat because lived in Alaska and like it was not like this. And so over the course, no, and over the course of this summer, I've been getting burned and tanned and burned and tanned. And so now I'm in this tanning phase where I'm like, everything's starting to tan, and I'm like, I feel good about myself.
Can you
Uh,
imagine how great all those sun rays are for your sweet little body that lived in Alaska for so long, though?
I burn. I'm like a lobster, right? So like, I mean, in the sunlight, you could see my beard turn red, and yes, it does. I get red right here, and so people automatically like, "Oh, you burn?" Yeah, yeah, I do. It
Yeah.
sucks. It sucks, right? Like peeling off all that skin, but with peeling off the skin, you get tan, so it's great.
Well, I have a story for you just to
Go
make you feel
ahead.
better about burning. So, a couple weeks ago, I attended a retreat. It's called Ascension Acres out in Sedan, Kansas, and it's very primitive. So, like,
Mm,
uh, you kind of, it's not like you live off the land. Like, they still cater in food. We didn't do it that
yeah.
bad, but they catered in food. You had to bring your own tent. We showered in like a hose scenario on purpose, might I add you, because we're supposed to be connecting back to the earth. So like we had like sanitation stuff around, but like it wasn't like the way you did it. Like for instance, the first day I woke up in my tent. I walked through a field, up a hill, past another field to my car that I parked. I grabbed a jug of water out, a toothbrush, and my toothpaste, and I'm sitting here like I just rolled out of bed, right? Only I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of God's country in Sedan, Kansas, and I'm just brushing my teeth, looking at the farm I'm staying on. There's like a horse trailer, and the sky is beautiful, and all I hear are the birds. And I was like, this is fucking it for
Yeah.
me. Like this is beautiful. This is a break. Like I don't have a phone. I'm just brushing my teeth and spitting on a cow pasture. I'm like alkaline waters, like I can blow it anywhere. Like that is hippie to me. No
Yeah.
shit. When you're talking
Mhm.
about going back and connecting with your roots. So on top of it, everybody else around me usually had like an air mattress or something else like that. And I was like, bitch, you're going to be humble and you're going to sleep on like a really thin blanket. I didn't put any padding down. I took a pillow like this big and I had like a huge camping, like Armageddon bag that my husband actually packed for me. And I slept like cuddling the bag, or I used the bag as my pillow. And I just like stared up at the sun. Now, I didn't get to do it for like 5 days or something intense like that because I'd have been out of there. Because we had to be outside from like a Friday to Sunday scenario. And when I was younger, I used to just burn and tan and burn and tan. And as I've gotten older, if I stay in the sun too long, I will have a horrible burn and I will go back to tan, but the burn really hurts. So I was so focused on bug repellent and tick repellent that I did not wear any sunscreen the whole time I was there. So by Saturday at like 3 p.m., I'm out in the sun and I'm starting to notice that I'm burning, but I'm also noticing that I'm not going to be able to get out of the sun at all. So I just continue to cook and everyone is getting worried about me as I'm getting worried for
Oh.
myself. So she had a pool up on her property and I basically just went and took a hippie bath in her pool and soaked my sunburn in there. But then for the rest of the retreat, I had to put pants on and cover up myself and put a hat on to
Oh.
stay away from the sun. And you can't really see it now, but I actually still have remnants of where my skin is still not the same. But I was so red. A severe storm ended up moving in the second night. And because I did a meditation lead and a drum circle lead. So yeah, I'm a hippie. And then after that, it was night out. And I was like, I'm actually going to go retreat to an Airbnb because my skin feels like it's going to fall off. And I've suffered from sun poisoning before. I got it on an anniversary trip in Jamaica, and that is like the flu and a sunburn in one. It's awful. So I felt like I was gonna have sun poisoning again. I stayed at the Airbnb overnight. The storm hit, and I was so grateful I was not in my tent. I think I would have blown into the forest. So I woke up the next day and I ended up telling my dear friend who runs the camp, I love you. I'm so sorry, but there's just no way that I can sit out in the sun today. I really think that it's a detriment to my health. So I'm actually going to go home and like I'm pretty sure I had like a degree of burns like on my nose and on my face. So my whole
Oh,
face peeled. And I was like, look at this fresh baby skin coming in. Shit, I should burn myself more often. And I just kept making jokes like that to myself because it was very painful. And like I shed like a serpent all over my body. And I had like short shorts and a bathing suit on. So it was like 80% of my body was burned.
oh my goodness! I got a pretty nasty burn over the weekend, and like I went to the bathroom yesterday, and I looked down, like just tilted my head because I'm bald, tilted my head, and I just had layers upon layers of like dead skin. I was like, well, it looks like this boar brush is gonna come in handy and just start. And it hurt so bad, but it took all the dead skin away, so that
Nah,
was
dude, here's
beneficial.
what you need to do with your bald head that's gonna up level your game. You need to get you a dermaplane knife. Like I dermaplaned my face, like I lathered that shit up. You can do it with like Vaseline almost. And I
Yeah.
mean, please do your research. But you can like Vaseline, coconut oil, whatever you want to use, and then you slide all that dead skin off that's stopping your pores from growing and glowing. And then it's not going to hurt your skin to where it like scars and is like, don't touch me, kind of like it
Yeah.
calluses.
Yeah.
I dermaplaned my sunburn, and that was the only way that I was able to heal it much faster than it like looking
Yeah.
like SpongeBob without water or some shit.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. That's something I'm
Let me know if you do it, because I'll be recommending products left and right for your head that are all natural and hippie and from the earth.
hey, you know what? I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted. But
Yeah.
anyways, we're not here about me. We're here about Cheyenne and to hear her story. So Cheyenne, would you like to share what it was like in your active use and some of the harder times?
Yes, I say all of this with immense amount of love for everybody involved. I would just like to start that off. I was a part of two households my whole life. So I'm the youngest of three kids. And from a very young age, well, actually, from like 91 when I was born, my parents actually separated. So the only thing I've ever known is two lives. I know that I live with my mom Monday through Friday, and I go to my dad's Friday to Sunday. And then in the summers, we visit Wednesdays and weekends. So um, my mom also dated a drummer. Like the first like memories I have is this amazing band where like it's like, okay, put the kids in the van, we gotta go to the show. So if we weren't going to the show, we were getting in the car and driving 30 minutes and going to my dad's. So like in my mind, I'm like, I'm always going somewhere. I'm always on tour, right?
Yeah.
So I think ultimately, like for me specifically, this didn't really happen to my siblings. It created a divide in me, and like I had certain expectations, I had certain rules, and I had a certain religion at this house, and I had the same thing at this house. My mom was like, I want you to be old enough to, understand and you pick for yourself. And at our other house, our parents definitely believed that some religious structuring would probably good for youth so you don't be rebellious and understand right and wrong and good and evil, right?
Yeah.
So I walked it through that like my whole life, and I had wonderful friends, a wonderful childhood. I personally, looking back, was like the Robin Williams of my group. I struggled with a lot of mental illness before. like mental illness was something that you could boastfully be proud of and people would support you. It was like depression was something to like hide, and people would treat it like a cancer diagnosis where they're like, oh,
Yeah.
bless your heart, but like
Yeah.
supporting people, I guess, wasn't really like as big of a thing as it is now. Like I'm trying to be nice about it. Um,
Yeah.
so I struggled with it, but it was almost like a denial thing of it. And I swayed in between so many different influences, like parental influences in my life, that I ultimately realized like I don't even know who I am. I don't even really like have a voice. I'm too busy listening to who you tell me I am and who I'm supposed to be for you in this house and this rule set in this moment. um, as you can tell, like I talk a lot and I can talk fast.
Yeah.
So my energy level was too much for a lot of people around me. And instead of them just being like, you're extremely theatrical and comical, but sometimes we just need you to take it down and be quiet, it really wasn't presented like that in a lot of scenarios. And it's just from people not understanding how words can affect words. Like words can affect others. Again, apparently a new concept. We're all teaching each other. So I just remember feeling like I was too much for everybody. And I mean, I don't fit in. I think I'm too much. Um, I don't like I didn't feel like I fit in with my family. Like I felt like my siblings were born like really close, so they're really close. So I never really felt like I fit in with them when I was a kid, even though I wanted to. But since you're the youngest, you're always gonna get picked on. So I internalized that along with like the depression. Um, and then when I would talk about it, it would just kind of like it was kind of like a no-no subject because nobody really knew how to talk about it. And like how dare me, you know,
Mm.
be ungrateful almost. So again, swaying in and out of like so many perspectives and so many influences almost, I really like lost myself and turned on myself is the greatest way that I could say it. And this darker part of myself decided to protect the lighter part of myself in really crazy ways. So I remember I have just started diving more into regression therapy in this. I think everybody in the world has been sexually traumatized in some way or another, whether you're male or female. But like realizing that it's actually a trauma was something that was really big for me going through a lot of my stuff because, I was raised with very strong parents that taught you how to get through really hard situations, but they didn't teach you how to like process your emotions.
Yeah.
Again, because they didn't learn it in generation and generation back. Again, I always want to be like, it's not your fault. But this is the result. So, where was I on that? Yeah, so I thank God I had notebooks, right? Because like I was a little rebellious in school, not like bad, not like I'm going to ISS or anything, but like
Yeah.
I might steal a thing of hall passes and write my own tardy passes, you know?
Yeah.
Like I might
That's
do something.
smart. That's smart, by the way.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other things that I can't say. And I'm just gonna say the statute of limitations or something like that. I don't know. Like
Okay.
we'll talk about that off air. But like just
All
it
right.
was just like it was harmless is what I would say. But I was always trying to like get around it and go faster and move around the system some way.
Yeah.
And I just remember my rebelliousness not being liked, and I don't blame them. And it would just make me like want to rebel more and want to get away more. But it was always like this like sadness inside of me. So from a young age, I would always like either get referred to the guidance counselors or I would like have to go see them myself. And I ended up building a relationship up with them where I was like, well, okay, this is how I really feel. They're like, you're safe here. You can tell us anything here. I was like, do you really want me to tell you the truth? Because like, I'm gonna give it to you, and I'm actually gonna like put in a nice little bow for you. So I had one. I think it was in like fifth grade. She basically like gave me a journal, and she was just like, you should just write your feelings out. Like, don't judge yourself. Just write everything out that you want to write. So I started writing myself from a really young age. And I guess the best way that you could say was it's cathartic for
Yeah.
anybody that does it. And I kept doing it, and I realized that the person I was in the journals was the person that I didn't want anybody to know what was going on with me. I was when I was a young teenager and I was figuring out hormones and sexuality and liking boys and, am I pretty? Am I ugly? Oh, this boy doesn't like me. Oh, this boy does like me. Oh, well, like
Yeah.
boy crazy, honestly. It was stupid now that I look back. But I loved love so much. Thank you, Disney Channel, for making me believe that I need love to then figure out what I want to do with my life, because that's
Yeah.
really fucking weird now that I look back. But again, loving that perspective of myself, I just wrote everything down. I wrote fights with step parents, siblings, things I didn't understand. Like all of this stuff came out. And I mean, I still have all these to this day, and I'll go back and look at them. And I realized the pattern of depression and the way that I didn't know how to tell anybody, because like I was depressed. I went like full throttle. I would actually just like to kill myself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an emotional response, it was a logical response. It was like an AI. It was like, okay, listen, here is all of the details. You have this many more years on life. You don't feel like you have support in what you talk about, even though that's not the way I could have expressed it to myself at the time. I'm like, I think I would like to die. Like, so I grew up like in a church on one side. So God's like really important to the side of the family, but like a specific version of God.
Yeah.
So I always found myself falling supremely short of what they thought God should be to me, for me, however I should act, whatever. Um, and I obviously really struggled with that because I always saw Jesus like on the side. Like I would always talk to him, but when I would pray when I was a kid, I would be like, God, it's me again.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, like
Yeah.
sad story. So then the teenage hormones ramp up and all of the like I remember I wanted like a high school boyfriend so bad just so I could, get on with my life or whatever. But I honestly like wanted to love him and have like that first love experience and la 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 la. So music came into my life obviously through the, all the influences of my life. Definitely like getting in a band when you're younger and going to like very young child, like I don't even know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, some age like that, you're around live music. You already understand like sound frequency without understanding sound frequency. It feels good and it becomes a part of your heart.
Yeah.
So music and writing were two big things that I put together. And I actually had like a motel band with my cousin. So his mom had like a shut down motel and we could set up a band in any room we wanted. He had all the equipment and I could come in and sing covers. I could write my own music, whatever. We grew up in like really a cluster of small towns that all went to the same school. So especially like in the 90s, kids get instruments all at the same time and we're all trying to figure out like who's going to be a part of the band, like who's going to do this.
Yeah.
So I was going to be the vocalist. I was going to be the Amy Lee. Okay, we're going to write about our heart and our soul and we're going to save people. And so we ended up like, playing with all the guitarists in town. And there was this one that I'd had a crush on since, I mean, literally, like I met him when I was a kid. Like I just like pinged to him and I was like, I love him so much. And he ended up coming to play guitar with us. And I'm extremely introverted, extremely shy. I do not have any self worth. I'm extremely self conscious, like I'm in that age range of like 13, 14, 15. And he comes to play guitar. He's also friends with my brother at the time. So he played guitar with my brother. So he was like at my house. And I was like, oh my God, he's at my house. Like calling my friend. And I'm like, oh my God, he's playing guitar in the next room. It's just ridiculous. Like, so like I had always had a crush on him. And then he slowly started playing guitar for our little motel band. And I was obviously pulling a no doubt and falling for my guitarist. But it was kind of hard because he was so sweet. He drove me home and he let me smoke his cigarettes, and that's a really big deal to a 13-year-old.
You're right.
You're like, oh my God, he likes me. So somehow, however it goes, he ends up being my first love, and we end up going in and out of just a crazy, toxic and stressful and honestly like beautiful relationship for over the next like 7 years of my life. And adding a boy that doesn't know how to treat a woman onto a woman that's already suicidal is like worse than a hurricane to me, right?
It's
And these
not
are all
good.
retrospect thoughts. Like I'm following the story with you, and I'm like, this is so fucked. I took all this treatment. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was awful. So I always like to say like he got a hold of my psyche when I was like 14 or 15. This boy that I loved like really shaped me. You know, I basically lived at his house. His mother was my mother, his sisters were my sisters, and his sister had these three beautiful children, and like I was in the family. You know, and I grew up in a small town, so I don't really want to be promiscuous. I do just want to find my first love. I want to give my virginity to him, and I want to be with him the rest of my life, and I want to build our life together. Even though I still want to go explore the world, and I don't want any of that I just talked about. You know, do you
Right.
already see the division in me,
Yeah.
right? But I still remember like emotionally just being so invested and enthralled in him and his family that over time, I mean, neuroplasticity, right? Especially when you're used to living in like fight or flight with a family, there was always something going on, always someone to save, always someone to watch, and always something to do in such a extremely dramatic capacity where it was like, can we all just like kind of get our fucking shit together? Oh, but
Yeah.
like we all love each other. So there was this really toxic underlying of love where it was just like there are no boundaries here because I love you and we're family, you know,
Yeah.
la la
Yeah.
la la la. And I still love every single one of these people to this day because like they have saved my life in a crazy instance. Like I always, when I tell these stories, I have to remind people like I believe I was supposed to go through all these experiences that I did, just so I could heal and talk to them, talk to people about them, and be like, hey, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I got so much slack from everybody that loved me coming in and out of these relationships, like me trying to figure this out, that again, it just made me go into myself in a very depressive, suicidal state. And I, you know, with him being in his own band, you know, you're around a culture of where you can get and try and do anything. So I ultimately decided in my head at a young age that like 25 is a really good outro for me. I think
Yeah.
I could make myself look good. Like I think I'll keep it an open casket, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't want to blow my head off. I'm not going to slit my wrists. I'm not going to make it anything for anybody.
Yeah.
But I also don't want my family members to find me and scar them because I feel like at this point I'm staying alive for everybody in my life. Like I still don't exist in this point. Even though if you talk to anybody at the time, like I'm a supremely like sarcastic bitch, I'm the best friend, I'm the villain, I'm this, I'm that, like whoever it is in the story. But to me, I really had no idea who I was. I was a possession and a big part of this relationship. I was cheated on. I think I cheated on him afterwards just to show him how it felt, even though he didn't really care. Like it was just toxicity back and forth and back and forth. And when someone that close to your heart impales you every day with like words and feelings and all of these things that you should not treat a young woman at all, like it seeps into you like poison. And I started living that poison out loud, and I ultimately decided um like a drug overdose makes sense because I could be like all the other greats that I've read about. I could be like Kurt Cobain, I could be like fucking Janis Joplin, I could be
Yeah.
Jerry Garcia, you know? Like they did a bunch of drugs, they shouted their pain to the world, and then ultimately the drugs took them away from all of us. Now, was I going to go be a rock star and be high the whole time? No, because thanks to my trauma, my throat chakra closed down and I could not hit I just couldn't sing. I had stage fright horribly, and a lot of the traumas that I was already going through that weren't even considered traumas at the time, it was considered my fault. Um, you know, really fucked
Well, it sounded to me like in that situation where you felt really suicidal, like to me it sounded like you felt like life was a burden. but then like in turn you were the burden because you didn't want to place that on anybody else. I can't tell you how many times I've been in that place where I'm like, it would be so much easier just to end it right now and
Mhm.
be over, but who's going to find my body and what is it going to do to them,
Mhm.
right? Like, so I understand that, and there's that is something that I hear across the board. You know, I was just talking to a friend of mine last week, and he said, I'm only alive for like one person. If that person disappears, then I'm going to be a burden to other people. And I'm like, I know how you feel,
Mhm.
and it sucks. It's a terrible feeling to have.
It's a great way to look at it because I remember it wasn't like the lack of love and all of that. It was seeing how hard everybody around me struggled to keep us alive. And, they like let us know, you know, we're doing it, but it's tough. It's taking a toll. It's this, it's that. Again, nobody really realized how impactful their words are and how much they affect people or how much they stick with them, right?
Yeah,
So a burden is a great way to put on it because even like if I wanted to go confide in it, like maybe they couldn't hold space correctly, like it's
yeah,
not their fault. So I did put my life in the hands of people just to see if like they would help me. I did live for other people, like I like lived off other heartbeats is what I would say because I wasn't there. I was a zombie. I didn't do it. So I definitely experimented with like a whole bunch of stuff. Like I think the list is shorter of what like I knew that I wouldn't do. Like I know that I never touched heroin because I was so in love with Kurt Cobain and Lane Staley. And I was like,
yeah,
heroin killed my friends.
yeah.
And that's what I would say the first time it was offered to me. He was like, do you want to do whatever he called it? And I said, that killed my best friends, right? And he
Yeah,
goes, who? And I said, Kurt and Lane. I was
yeah.
like, Nirvana and Alice in Chains. I was like, there's no way out. But I also didn't like it's so crazy to be like, I want to make sure I plan my death properly. And when I die, I'm just not a statistic. So I can't be a heroin overdose because it'll be like, oh, what a tragic death. But then I was like, hey, what if I write everything down that I wish that I could have confided everybody that I loved? And then when I died, I'll give them a crate of notebooks and then they'll know.
The crazy thing is like with that statement is you would be a statistic.
I know. But this is the psychosis of a
Yeah.
supremely depressed Midwestern teenager in the middle of small town farmland USA that, I mean, again, information's still pretty slow at this time, bud.
Yeah, yeah,
So getting like away from like the like super sad part of the story because around like 19 years old I hit a cliff where I was like, I'm gonna jump off this motherfucker. I'm so done. And I've had a pen pal like my whole life. I don't know if anybody in this day and age like even knows what a freaking pen pal is, like especially with social media, like why.
yeah.
But I was actually gifted one at a really young age in a like crazy story of like going to a wedding, seeing this couple from our past and then being like, we have a son, you should email each other, be pen pals, it'll be cute. Like I don't really remember like the super quote, but I just remember like getting his picture and I was like, this is mine. He's mine. This is my pen pal. Like I hadn't even talked to him and they're like, here you go. And I was like, okay, he's mine. This is what I do. This I talk to this boy. So between like NSN Messenger, Yahoo emails, all that stuff. We just like start talking and we waft in and out of each other's life over and over. We are the outside perspective of each other's lives. And we would just like get a random thought and it would be like, hey, I haven't talked to you in 2 years. What's going on in your life? Oh, and we talked for like 4 hours. We talked for a couple weeks and then it would just kind of like float away. It's like we've we've filled up the curiosity. It's time to go out and live our lives again. So around 19, I'm over fucking life. I've still been over life, but I'm like super over it and I'm like totally determined to die by the age of 25. So I need to have really good experiences before I go. I need my family members to have good experiences with me and I need to like document it as much as possible. Because yes, I'm going to be a statistic, but I'm a statistic that now knows she's a statistic and she's going to write to you before she dies. because this is a sick form of foresight that you can have with a mental illness.
Yep.
So, 19, I'm sitting in my house. I think Facebook Messenger is a thing. Either way, this kid messages me out of nowhere. He's in college. And he's like, basically, like, I'm curious, where are you at in your life? What are you doing? This is what I'm doing in my life. Da 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 da. Music's always connected us, like, from the beginning of our lives. So even if it, like, we got over with, like, hey, this is what you're doing in your life. Great, cool, awesome. What are you listening to? What guitar are you playing? What lyrics are you writing? You know, and it was like, 6 hours later, it's like, dude, how do we talk on the phone like this? That's crazy. And you feel like amplified when you're like done. You're like, I don't want to get off the phone, but I have nothing more to say, but damn it, I love you. You know, so you like kind of move on. So we had actually never met in person ever our whole lives. There was one time I had an opportunity to meet him, and I turned around and looked at him and I ran away from him.
Wow.
Yes. And like, because in my mind, I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And I was like, again, a young, insecure girl. So I'm like, he's not going to like me. I'm, So,
Yeah.
like, always this like fear of losing him, even though I never had him. Right.
Yeah.
So, 19, he's like, why don't you just like come stay in my dorm room and hang out with me and like we can finally meet for the first time? And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that'd be super great. So we ended up hanging out, like fucking having the most transformative conversations that two young kids can honestly have in such a developmental part of their lives. Like he was actually on the right trajectory that they tell us we're supposed to do. Like you're like he had the trophies, he played the sports. I'm pretty sure he's like the Zac Efron of his school. Let's just be honest.
Okay,
And
now Zac Efron's a good human being, all right?
he is, but I'm just saying he was
Yeah.
Zac Efron before Zac Efron was Zac Efron in High School Musical. You know what I'm saying? Like he did
Okay.
stuff that people didn't do. Like he didn't play sports and do drama when I was at school, and
But
he
he
was
did
like,
it.
and he did it. Like he did everything, and I just watched from the sidelines, and I was like, he inspires me so much. I wish I could try it this life, but I'd rather die. You know, but he was like, he just always inspired me. That's like the best way that I could say about it. So, yeah, did all the sports, did all the things. He's going to college. I had dropped out of college after going on tour with my high school, or not high school, but my other boyfriend's band. And I got a little of like the music industry life and all of that fun stuff. And that was definitely short lived, but I am extremely grateful for that time in my life as well. I'll reference that later for a reason. So, anyways, I spend intense amount of time just having these very, very deep personal conversations with this gentleman, and I tell him my plan. Like he's like, where do you see yourself in like 5 or 10 years? And I was like, oh, I see myself dead.
Mm.
But he doesn't react. Like if you had told anybody else, they'd be like, no, oh, what's going on? And just being so dramatic. And he was like, okay, well, why do you think that way? And I was like, well, I fucked up. I fucked up my life and I don't want to undo it. And I'm tired and I've been tired and my soul's tired. This was the first time that I had like recognized it was a soul recognition. I was like, my soul's tired. I just don't want to go on anymore. Like, I'm sorry that I want to die, but I'm so sad and I don't know how to get this sickness out of me.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to do it the Western medicine way. Like I grew up with people that literally are dependent on their medication because that is the way that it was back then. And observing that journey, I didn't want to do it either. So I was like, the way that you can get help here isn't even the way that I want to be helped. Like I just don't want to do it. I want to enjoy my life to the fullest. I want to love my friends. I want to help my friends. I was the hero. I would have done anything for you. Call me. I'll be there. Your boyfriend's mad at you. I'll beat him up. Whatever. Like do. But again,
Yeah.
I don't exist in any of this. So, I had so many amazing conversations with him, but it was almost like a paradigm shift in my head where every time I would get done hanging out with him, I was like, I feel like I was my authentic self with him. Like I like who I am with him. And I wish that I could be that all the time. And I don't understand why this guy inspires me so much, but dear God, I am just overly grateful that you put this man in my life and just kind of like, you're going the wrong way, kid. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. So after that, it was weird because now that I speak spiritual terms, I 100% believe that I experienced a Kundalini awakening while I was with him in his presence. And I've done massive amounts of research on it. I remember the first time I was just like in askjeeves.com because Google really wasn't the big thing. And
Yeah.
I was like, white light up my spine, golden light up my spine. Like I went down a whole bunch of research about like chakras and Kundalini energy before I could actually even grasp like what the fuck you're talking about. Because again, I have religious blinders on, and this can't be for someone like me.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be Christian. I'm supposed to be Jesus. And if I believe in you, I am going to rot in a fiery hell. So there's no way that I could have experienced anything called chakras, kundalini, or anything. So I must be going crazy. I must have actually burnt my brain from acid and shrooms in a meticulous form of pharmaceuticals that you overprescribed to America and gave to my depressed ass because I didn't come to your fucking office. Okay? That's
Yeah.
probably what's going on. I probably
Yeah.
can't see ghosts. I'm
Yeah.
probably just going fucking insane from doing too many drugs, from trying to kill myself and live at the same goddamn time.
Yeah.
That's probably just what's going on. So I continue with the research year after year. Ultimately, I decide I really do want to live, but I feel like I have to play catch up, and it's really hard because I was still in and out of that toxic relationship until probably the age of I think 21. I think is when I got out in 22, and I ended up getting on with an amazing company. And I started just like out as a server in their company. And my mom was like, "Go work there. I love this place. Go work there." And I was like, "Well, I'm not doing shit. I haven't."
Yeah.
As to you, I've been trying to kill myself for 7 years because I love you too much. But um, yeah, let's go work here. And so the crazy thing about this is like divine timing, right? And I know we're getting close. So I'm
Yeah.
like, "Oh, let me find a cliffhanger for you." So I have orientation at this beautiful, beautiful company for 2 weeks, and I have never really been passionate and inspired about anything except for like music. So like seeing other people get careers, college degrees, and all of that, I was like, I don't know how you did that because it bores me so fucking much thinking that my life could be that. And I'm glad it works for you, but I'm still trying to figure out what works for me. So I'm just looking at you and I'm seeing that would make me happy. So I just got to keep going, right?
Yeah.
So I meet these people that are the trainers and they travel across the country. The company pays for everything and they inspire and motivate people. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And the day before the opening of the store, I had a horrible abusive accident with this man that I had given my heart to since the age of like 14. And I had to pack up and leave in a very dramatic way and say, leave the key under the mat and never look back. And I had to instruct myself to do it. When I left, I still loved him, even though he was very mean to me. But I didn't even realize he was that mean to me. But I decided that day, I'm just going to go start a new life. I can start over. I can do this. I'm not behind. This is just the pathway that I'm going to take, and this is where I'm going to go. So I left the apartment. I went back to my mom. My mom, thank God, always was like, I'm going to help you without telling you I'm helping you. And she left a house in my hometown, like for us to always be able to access. Like it was our home. We could always go back there. So I had tried to live with them for a little bit and it didn't work out. And then I started my new life at my new job with all of my new friends and my trainers. And 3 weeks later, I was sweeping peanuts up on the ground, and I went, "This is my fucking life, and I'm actually happy. Nobody's being mean to me." And I started coming out of my shell.
Oh man, that's a hell of a cliffhanger. Peanuts and shells. I caught you there. I
Yeah,
caught it there.
that's the secret. I mean, you can look back at all my stuff and like know what the company is because I mean, the company saved my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, everybody, Cheyenne and I talked this out, and we're going to do a part two because we've never had a part two on the channel, and I think her story is far too important to just try and crunch in an hour. I don't think that I think there's more to it that we need to hear and that somebody needs to hear. Um, I've got a few people in mind that need to hear it, but um, Cheyenne, I am grateful to have you as a friend and to hear your story. Where can we find you?
You can find me if you want to go to TikTok. I'm Safe Space with Cheyenne. Facebook is Safe Space with Cheyenne. My personal page is Cheyenne Moore. I prefer you go to the podcast page if you want to, but please come check out me and my beautiful family if you'd like to. And I also have a YouTube, Safe Space with Cheyenne. So come on over. Let's talk. Tell me about you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Cheyenne's going to be in one of the next few episodes, if not the very next one. So until next time, much love, be good, and we'll see you around the bend. Bye.
Bye.